Greetings, friends. This is Tolkien Tuesday. Last week we looked at Aragorn. This week we'll zero in on Gandalf. And I'm going to let Stephen Colbert introduce him.
Gandalf is a Maiar who has been in Arda since Ilúvatar cried Ea. So he knows it all.
The Silmarillion introduces him as Olorin, the wisest of the Maiar, one who has learned patience and pity from Nienna.
Nienna weeps forever and turns grief into wisdom. That is her power. And Gandalf, who was Olorin at the time, that's his patron. That's who he hangs out with. That's why he's not interested in power or glory when he comes to Middle-earth like Saruman.
It anticipates his role in the War of the Ring like this. In later days, he was the friend of all the children of Ilúvatar, and took pity on their sorrows, and those who listened to him awoke from despair and put away the imaginations of darkness. Indeed, this description is never so literal as in the case of Theoden. When Gandalf meets him, he is described as so bent over with age that he seemed like a dwarf. Poisoned by Wormtongue, Theoden welcomes him as Gandalf Stormcrow, the bringer of evil tidings.
Why should I welcome you, Gandalf Stormcrow?
A just question, my liege.
Their encounter is not quite as dramatic as Peter Jackson makes it.
I will draw you, Saruman, as poison is drawn from a wound.
Yet in the text, Gandalf makes a crucial connection between his counsel and Theoden's despair. Now, Theoden, son of Thengol, will you hearken unto me? Do you ask for help? Gandalf lifted his staff and pointed to a high window. Not all is dark. Take courage, Lord of the Mark, for better help you will not find. No counsel have I to give to those that despair. Yet counsel I could give, and words I could speak to you. Would you hear them? No counsel have I to give to those who despair, Gandalf says. This is the difference between Theoden, who listens to Gandalf and finds glorious redemption on the fields of the Pelennor, and Denethor, the High Steward of Gondor. In fact, the substance of Gandalf's message to Denethor is similar to the message that he gives to Theoden. Doom hangs still on a thread, yet hope there is still, if we can but stand unconquered for a little while. And yet for Denethor, who has been poisoned by what he has seen in the Palantir, Sauron has already won. During the Siege of Gondor, he prepares to burn himself and his wounded but still living son. After all, better to burn sooner than late, for burn we must. This surrender to despair is supreme proof that, at least in Denethor's case, the Dark Power has already won. As Gandalf says, only the heathen kings, the Númenóreans, under the domination of the Dark Power did thus, slaying themselves in pride and despair, murdering their kin to ease their own death. In other words, the only supreme failure is to give in to despair when there is still good to be done.
But there's some good in this world, Mr. Frodo, and it's worth fighting for.
Gandalf is given no foreknowledge of the future. He has no certainty as to how things will turn out. But his role is to encourage each person to do their part. As he tells the Council of Elrond, despair is only for those who know the end beyond all doubt. We do not.
You think you are wise, Mithrandir. Yet for all your subtleties, you have not wisdom. Do you think the eyes of the White Tower are blind? I have seen more than you know.
Despair, as Denethor demonstrates, is a mark of hubris. Denethor believes that he knows the end beyond all doubt. He knows what is going to happen. But he has forgotten that there are other powers at work in the world besides the will of evil, and they may step in even when lesser heroes fail. This is why Gandalf's sacrifice in Moria is so significant. It represents a supreme act of surrender to the authority that gave him his mission. So Tolkien writes in one of his letters, "For all Gandalf knew at that moment, he was the only person who could direct the resistance to Sauron successfully, and all his mission was vain. He was handing over to the authority that ordained the rules and giving up personal hope of success." Gandalf lays down his life because it is the right thing to do, even if the company has no earthly hope without him.
Fly, you fools!
And while characters may go on without earthly hope, they must steadfastly refuse to give in to despair. Nowhere is this clearer than in the characters of Frodo and Sam. And that's where we'll head next week on Tolkien Tuesday.